All right, everybody, we're back.
Hey, what's going on?
We're back for the first time. No, we're back for the second time. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty there, but we're back.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, welcome back to Is It Crazy or Is It God, where we aim to inspire a community of Bible readers. And you don't have to already be a Bible reader. You can come with your non-Bible reading habits and we'll show you how to do it. I mean, listen, it's really easy. All you do is get yourself a Bible or a Bible app.
Yep.
And we actually have a reading plan that's a year reading plan, but it's been over a year since we've been reading from this plan. So you can take it at your own pace. And, you just start reading. And then you have all these questions you don't understand. And then you come back and watch these videos. Or you just Google stuff like we do. But we just welcome you to join us along on our journey. That's a lot to say. I was just talking. Anyway, let's jump right in.
Yes.
What did you learn this week, my friend? Call him my friend. He is my friend too, though. So
what did I learn this week? What did I learn this week? A lot of things, actually. I learned this week that I know this sounds really cliche, but I learned this week the importance of relaxation. The importance of spending time with family or friends more. Because life comes at you hard and fast, and time goes really fast.
Yes. It's wild.
So I just came to realize I got to appreciate my time a little bit more, have some more patience with myself. Don't try to, go hard, but enjoy the process and enjoy life at the same time instead of, worrying about the result. Appreciate the journey. That's what I kind of learned this week. And I'm actually ready for next week. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to come on here next week to tell you what I learned because I'm about to push my mind to a different place. So it's going to be very interesting.
Next week is I'll be full transparency, right? Next week is the beginning of our second 100-day sort of experiment of the year. And we're going to spend the next 100 days just doing our best to be consistent in certain ways and get the results that we're seeking. So tomorrow starts the beginning of our second set of 100 days. The first set of 100 days was okay. But, I mean, for me, it was just learning, it was a learning opportunity. Yeah. But I did learn a lot. And I was very, I observed a lot in myself and in my thinking and in my patterns and stuff. So anyway.
Yeah. So, what did you learn this week?
What did I learn this week? Okay, this week I learned sort of similar to you because we both took time off. I learned that things are working even when you think they're not. And that's one of the reasons why we want to be consistent with things in our life is because, essentially you're just always working towards something and things are working whether you think they're not, or whether you see the results or not. So I learned that, and I learned that, yeah, I have to be honest, it's the same thing. The importance of just like taking a rest, like literally just like taking some time and not working. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, but for me, it was a few days, and just taking the time to just pause, reflect. So for me, as we're starting Q2 of the year, I intentionally knew going into this time that I was going to set some time aside to reflect and kind of like put together some plans for like how I'm going to execute in the second quarter. But so in order to do that, though, I definitely had to pause and just think about everything that's happened so far in the year. And I think that's important. Even if you're not necessarily trying to correct some things, I think it's important to just stop and just be still for a second. Because I don't recall doing this last year. Last year was a very like go, go, go kind of year. We were just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next the whole year.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might have caused some anxiety as unnecessarily. Like I always have anxiety, but like unnecessary anxiety.
This time last year, we were trying to get to where we're at now.
Yeah, but we were running. And I mean, listen, it's fine. We got here.
Yeah.
But it's like, all in all, I guess I'm learning more to trust God, to be honest with you. But I feel like it's so necessary. That's what I learned last week. The importance of just taking a step back and actually resting. Because even in the past, I've taken time off and I'd still work. But that's not.
No, I didn't do
that. That's not helpful. You think you're getting ahead, but you're really not, because your mind isn't able to like detach and reset. So I also learned that marriage is easy with this guy. No, I'm not gonna say that. That's I mean, kind of it's true. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever been married to you before. They haven't. Nobody's ever been married to me before, so I just have to take his word for it that I'm the best wife on the planet. And he never said that though. No, but we celebrating 5 years of marriage. Oh my God, it feels so weird to say that.
5 years.
5 years we've been married, guys. We're no longer newlyweds.
Nope.
5-year-olds are in kindergarten.
Yeah, we got like
people who were born 5 years ago are now in kindergarten.
Yeah, we got some
wow
experience.
Yeah,
we can actually, when you're a newlywed, you don't really. You can talk about it, right? But when you're 5 years in, yeah, you've been through some things.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I didn't necessarily like learn anything, but I appreciate the time that we have in this union, in this marriage. So that's exciting. Okay, listen, guys. This last week we actually took with like 2 weeks to read this, I think. So, and just just different things happening. So, but this last bit of time since you've seen us, we've read 2 Samuel 13 through 18. And we've read Psalms 3 through 4, 12, 13, 28, 55. Thank you. And then Psalms 26, 40, 58, 61 through 62, and 64.
All right.
Wow. And so it's basically, he's about to explain what it is, but we're still in David's era of him being king.
Almost about to be an end.
So I don't even think we talked about where David sort of like went off the path a little bit, but we're getting ready to get into that. No, I think we might have covered that last time.
What?
Last time when David and Bathsheba.
Yep. That was last time. Okay.
So anyway, we're on to the next right now, and so we're just gonna get started. We're gonna jump right in.
Yeah. All right. So 2 Samuel 13 to 15. The highlights are one of David's sons, Amnon.
I think it's Amnon.
Amnon. I'm sorry. Amnon commits rape. Absalom, another David's son, kills him. Absalom conspires against David. So this is the type of story in the Bible that you have to read it and understand it. And it gets real deep because Amnon,
It's cool.
raped his sister Tamar.
I think her name was Tamar. But check it out. Amnon and Tamar were half brother and sister. We're talking incest and rape.
Yep.
Wild. Okay, sorry. Continue.
And then his brother, Absalom, finds out. Absalom's not happy.
Clearly.
He kills him. Like,
well, he conspired to get him
conspired.
assassinated.
Yeah, but he killed him.
Yeah, he basically killed him. He ended him.
Which, here's the thing. David kind of turned a blind eye. He kind of was like, oh, forgive your brother.
I feel like it said somewhere in there that he was upset by it, but he didn't do anything. He didn't do nothing.
And Absalom was like, what? Watch this.
I gotta go back to this one part. Go ahead.
And you had said something earlier.
Yes, I did.
So break that.
So
that down.
I think it's interesting when we talk about like who our leaders are, because sometimes nobody's perfect. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like everybody is clear on that. Nobody's perfect, but I thought it was interesting because we were listening to this like recap on the Bible Project. Shout out to the Bible Project, because after we read over a week, especially after this time, we read over 2 weeks, mm-hmm. and we just needed a little like recap to make sure that we were talking about the right part of the story. Mm-hmm. We weren't going back too far. One of the things that they had pointed out was that when David did his dirt, and he, went with Bathsheba. Bathsheba was taking a bath, basically. And even though she was married to somebody else, David had sex with her, got her pregnant, and then he sent her husband off to battle, basically got him killed. And later, we find that David's son, Amnon, commits a sexual sin, which is, rape. And I don't know if incest is a sexual sin, but it certainly doesn't sit right. He committed a sexual sin just like his father did. And his other son, David's other son, Absalom, got somebody assassinated just like his father did. And I thought that was really interesting because in the midst of that, one of David's advisors, I can't remember his name, was it Nathan? Basically,
that was a prophet.
That somebody basically told him like about this story of like, oh, this guy did this and this and that, and David was like, oh, that's not right, and he was like, you're the guy, right?
2 Samuel.
Who is it?
12. Prophet
Nathan told David about himself after he did the deed with Bathsheba and got her husband killed. And then he repented. Basically, he was like, oh no, you know what? You're right. He didn't go and I think Saul had some moments there when he was alive where he just didn't even take ownership of what he did wrong. But David's not like that. He recognized it, like, oh my gosh, I'm horrible. Like, he knew he was wrong anyway. But when he got called out, he owned up to it. He took accountability. But I thought it was interesting when we were watching that recap that oh my goodness, the same things that he did, his sons ended up doing in different ways. And it made me think a number of things. Number one, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of what you do, even though God forgives you. Right. And number two, it was so interesting to me how the offspring of someone can be suscept to, I don't know, it can be kind of chained to the same behaviors as their parents. And I thought that was interesting because it's the same, it's not the same exact thing that played out, but there was a sexual sin, and then there was also the assassination, and it was right there in that second line of his offspring. So I thought that was a really interesting comparison. Go ahead.
Watch this. After David talks to Nathaniel, the prophet, he says this. This is 2 Samuel 12, verse 11. Thus says the Lord, behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house. And I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor. And you shall lie with the wives in the sight of this son. That sounds like it's evil in his own house.
Yeah. It's wild how when you read in the Bible, a lot of times what they do is prophesied, right? It's something's going to happen, and they say it's going to happen. You really don't know how it's going to happen, so they pronounce it like, "Oh, this is going to happen," and then it happens, and it's shocking. And then they go back and say, "See how I said that was going to," you know what I mean? So that's, I mean, listen,
exactly what happened.
And it's crazy to me too, because I think a lot of times we think of the Bible and think like, you know, that they don't address things like this. We're addressing a lot in this one little story. So a lot happening. You know, the half brother, and there was even parts in there, and I don't know if we're going to get to this, where David's son Absalom was taking advice, and somebody wanted him to go and take his father's concubines, and it's just a lot happening, and it's just like you almost can't even keep up with what's going on. So anyway, all right, sorry, go ahead.
So the questions. You ready for the questions?
I'm ready for the questions.
All right. We sometimes say those kids get away with murder. What was the consequence of David's inaction?
So this is what I was getting at, and I realized now that I didn't make my full point. This is so funny, because if I would have made the point, we would have done it again, right? So the point is this: when we pick our leaders, right, it's interesting because I wonder, even though it said that David was upset when his son Amnon committed the rape against his half-sister, right? Even though it said David was upset, he didn't do anything about it, which makes me think, is that the reason that he forgave his son? Of course it's his son, but it's like, if you do dirt and then somebody does some similar dirt, are you then sort of like, biased because you're like, oh, well, I guess I did it too, so I can't be too hard on them because that's what I do. And it's just like, no, you can't. It doesn't make it any better that you did it, and so now you're going to go easy on the people who are doing wrong. And I think that's probably where some of the angst came from Absalom, because he saw his father didn't do anything about what happened to his half sister. So he's just irritated, and he wanted to take the law into his own hands. But then that went far too. So I think one of the things is like, when you do wrong, you are then sort of like numb to wrongdoing. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it gives you like a filter that you can't really see straight. So so back to the question. We sometimes say those kids get away with murder. What was the consequence of David's inaction? It was that his son got very upset and felt like, well, if nobody's going to do anything about this, then I'm just not going to have any restraint. I think that's sometimes where it can go, is like, when people feel like they're being, they're not being taken seriously, or that there's no justice for them, they're willing to just, throw justice out the window. There's no justice for me. There's no justice for anybody. Right. So I think the consequence of you not taking, holding people accountable, because you're not holding yourself accountable. Now you ain't holding nobody else accountable. So now there's no accountability. So now everybody can do what they want to do. I feel like that's probably where Absalom was coming from. Or he could have just been on some revenge. Like, I got you. Right?
Yeah.
So it could have been that.
I think that you hit on some points. I think that when David committed a sin like that, and remember his child got taken away, but another one was born, I think that he was looking at it from the perspective of, well, God forgave me. Just what your point is, right? Because he committed an act of adultery and then murder.
Yeah.
Not killing somebody. It's the difference, people. It's the difference between killing somebody and then murder. Murder is planned. He got him set up. He assassinated him.
Yeah.
So, and then I think what happened with him is exactly right. I don't think he was in the right mind frame, and he was like, "Oh, I'll forgive him because the Lord forgave me." But like, the Lord did forgive you, but little do you know, because you're in action, Now, Absalom could have still did what he did, right? But if David took a harsher stance, we don't know exactly.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Because David didn't do anything, that led to a string of events. It led to a string of unfortunately events that we're going to get to later. Because this starts to change. Absalom starts conspiring against him. If David takes action against Adam, right? If he goes harsh and says, you had sex with your daughter, you gotta die, right? You had sex with your daughter, you can't do that, you gotta die. But he says David was angry, but he said, hold on. Let me see. I'm about to tell you what he said.
I think you're looking for 2 Samuel 13:21.
Yep. When King David heard of all these things, he was very angry. But Absalom spoke to none, neither good or bad, for he hated him. But David didn't do nothing. He was just angry. That's it.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out if it said anything about Absalom sort of like coming up with the plan, being upset. And it might
be.
That
was that's going from 1329.
Yeah.
It was a full 2 years. 1329 to was 1329. No, it's 27, 28, 23. It starts at 23, and it looks like it ends at. Yeah, it looks like it ends at 33. He set up his brother. That was 2 years later. Nothing happened to him for 2 years. Nothing. So like.
Yeah. Yeah, and he kept that on the low. So he plotted that thing out. Like, I'm pretty sure Absalom was like, he told his sister not to say anything, right? And it could, because he probably felt like you're gonna, you're not gonna, they're not gonna believe you, or something bad is gonna happen to you. So he told her, don't say anything, for that is your brother. Right? She said, now keep silent, my sister. He is your brother. Do not take this matter to heart. So she remained secluded in her brother Absalom's house. That was 2 Samuel 20. But it also says right after that Absalom waited 2 years. So I'm pretty sure he was just waiting, plotting out exactly he was going to do this, because he went and asked the king to go out into like the wilderness. Like, oh, okay, let's let everybody go.
See, so you're right. This is what 1321 confirms in the Study Bible. David had lost his moral courage and clarity of judgment.
In 2 Samuel 21, right? Now, when King David heard about all these things, he was angry but failed to take any action. It's just wild. So the question, did you answer the question?
Yeah.
What was the consequence of David's inaction? Yeah.
Yeah, it led to a string of events.
A string of horrible events.
Horrible events. A lot of people died because of that.
Man, sometimes you think that
we're going to get to the events later, because it comes up right here. Absalom doesn't conspire against David. He might, but I don't know if he does, if David takes swift, harsh action against his eldest son for raping his sister. I think it changes Absalom's mind. It wouldn't
necessarily have to be death.
Yeah.
But just correction of some sort.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me because
I don't know if it's death, but harsh action.
Yeah, he needs to pay the consequence for it. Like, either be banished or have to do something, because like you can't do that.
You can't do that.
And she even said before he raped her, like, or maybe after, that now you have to take me as your wife. Because she didn't want to get raped, but she was basically like, this isn't right. You know what I'm saying? Like, he tried to trick her anyway, asked her to come bring him food. I'm talking about Amnon right now. And then I'm curious to know what his situation was like. I guess he wasn't married.
I don't know, man.
Anyway,
he was wild.
it doesn't matter.
That's
He was killed. So anyway, let's move on to the next question.
Yes, Psalms. So this is various Psalms. So this says Psalms 3 and 4 were written after David's own son attempted a coup.
A coup. A takeover.
Yeah.
All right.
Just don't know how to say it, guys.
It's okay. That's why you have a wonderful wife.
English language is difficult. Oh. So how can his words help us in times of heartbreak? So let me read.
Let me see the question again. How can it? How his words help in time of heartbreak? I'll tell you, I've marked this whole thing up, and I wonder if this is the one we were reading at some point this week, and I was like really taken in with the word, like, oh man, this is talking to me. Literally was not going through anything that David was going through, but still was like, wow, I really needed to be reminded of this. So I'll tell you what I highlighted, because I'll bet that is what the answer is.
Okay. Go ahead.
So Psalm 3:2, many are saying of me, there is no help, no salvation for him in God. But you, O Lord, are a shield for me, my glory and honor, and the one who lifts my head. So I'm already seeing that sometimes it feels like you don't, like even when people are saying things about you, it feels like you're not being, like there's no help for you. Like there's just no way for you to come out of this, right? But God helped David. So, and he was wrong. So, of course he'll help you. You know what I'm saying? And especially if you come to him. And maybe only if you come to him, you know. But he's crying out to the Lord in here, and he's basically saying like he won't be intimidated or afraid no matter what. And salvation belongs to the Lord. So he's kind of seeking God, even going through what he's going through, knowing he was wrong.
Yeah.
Knowing that not only was he wrong and repenting for it, but now there's consequences that have come up that he's dealing with as a part of him being wrong. Mm-hmm. So he's still asking for God's help, and it's granted to him. So, you know, that's how I think that people can use the word in time of heartbreak. That was only Psalm 3. I didn't even go over Psalm 4. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll do 4. All right. So this Psalms 3 and 4, like Faith said, I got a lot highlighted, right? So number 4, helping it with a heartbreak. Psalms 4:1. Answer me when I call, O God of my righteousness. You have given me relief when I was in distress. Be gracious to me and hear my prayer. So it's in a heartbreak, right? Answer my prayers when I call because I'm in distress. And be gracious to hear my prayer. Be gracious to hear my prayer. Just hear me, Lord, in this distress that I'm going through with this heartbreak. 4 and 5. Now, this is very key. When we're going through a heartbreak, we're always angry. Be angry and do not sin.
Well,
because anger and sin are very tied closely to each other. Sometimes when I'm angry or Faith's angry, we just commit a sin just because we let our emotions, right, get to us.
Yeah.
And anger, as we've known, anger has caused some people to lose favor with God. You can be angry, just don't sin, which is hard for us to do. God gets angry, but he doesn't sin. We get angry and we kill our brother. I'm talking about Cain and Abel.
I mean, remember when David got angry that time, and the lady was like, "Whoa, don't
yeah,
kill
he was
him."
about to
God
slaughter.
took him out anyway.
Yeah,
God took the guy out anyway. So it's like, but it was good that she was there. He later made her his wife, one of his wives. It was good that she was there to be like, whoa, right? Because it is easy when you're angry to sin. Oh man, in a number of ways.
Yeah,
you could sin with your mouth. You could sin,
your thoughts.
You could sin like hurting somebody or vandalizing something or just doing a lot of different stuff. Yes. Yeah, it's a lot.
And then ponder in your own hearts on your beds and be silent. Offer the right sacrifices and put trust in the Lord. Just be silent.
Mm.
Just lay down, be silent. Just be silent, because if you're angry and then you don't do any action and you're silent and you trust God, He'll take care of everything.
Won't he though? And it's
Yep.
crazy because we are reading the scripture of the story of what happened, and then we come and we're reading the Psalms. So not only was David not sinning, right? Well, he did sin sometimes. What I'm saying is, when this was happening, he was going to God. Like that's the part, right? That I'm so fascinated with by David, because he's bringing all of his problems to God, even when he's wrong. You know what I mean? He's really a good example of how to do that, because I think a lot of times you feel like you've done wrong, and it's like, well, I got myself into this, so God's not going to help me.
No.
I think it's a thought that people might think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've thought that before. Like, look at me, look at where I am.
Yeah.
How could I ask God for help here?
Remain in silence.
Right? Like, I guess I got to deal with this.
Yeah.
Type of thing. But it's like, that's not how it works.
Nah.
That's not how it works best.
Mm-mm.
Right? And if you choose that for yourself, you're just going to find out the hard way that you could always seek God. Now, you're going to have the consequence either way.
You're going to have the
But you might as well just repent and ask God. Like, I've learned this from experience. Don't get me wrong, because I've definitely done it the other way. I've definitely chosen anger. I've definitely, not sought God out. And then sought out more, like I've sought out revenge. I mean, listen, this is not a confessional here, but it's more like just a comparison of like, oh, this is how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you man, I've done so many things when I'm angry.
Look.
All right, 4-7. You have to put more joy in my heart than they have when they're grain and wine bound. So what this is saying is focus on the joy.
Which can be hard,
it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're going through heartbreak. It's hard. Nobody said this was easy, guys. Focus on the joy. Yeah. And then, in peace, I will both lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, will make me dwell in safety. Like, sometimes you have to take a step back, be grateful, be angry, but do not sin, be silent, trust the Lord. That's hard to do. But in a heartbreak, you definitely should do that. Because if you're angry and you sin, you're going to be just in bigger trouble than you were before. You just got to deal with the consequences. It's true. There are going to be consequences. The severity determines on you.
And one thing now that we have this, because David didn't have this, right? We have the word of God. We have the Bible to go back and be like, what does God say about anger? What does God say about revenge? What does God say about when I've sinned? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many opportunities to go and look back and reflect. Also, one of the things I was thinking about when you just said, go and seek God and be grateful. It's funny because it's like, it is hard to do that. But when you practice gratitude, it's easier to get there. I've noticed that in myself recently. Where I'll start to have I'll react to something and I'll start to go somewhere else in my mind, somewhere negative. And, somebody like my sister Demita Joe or James will say like, well, all right, now, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? It's like they see me like getting into this bad mood or whatever. They're like, hey, you stop, you come here. And I'm able to get back to neutral because I'm practicing gratitude on a regular basis. Yeah. Right. And like, what does that look like? It looks like writing down what I'm grateful for every morning that I have time to do it. Well, really, you always have time. Sometimes I'll do it at my work desk, right? Like I'll just have a minute and be like, I'm just going to write down 4 things I'm grateful for. Or I'm just going to fill up this side of the page with something that I'm grateful for. Yeah. And it's funny because sometimes you don't think of anything. But then once you sit there for a second, things start to come in, and it could be really small things. Once you start listing them out, more and more pop into your head, like, oh yeah, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for this pen. I'm grateful for this job. I'm grateful for this, lunch that I have. I'm grateful for this car. I'm grateful for these sweaters, like whatever you have.
Yeah.
And no matter what you have, somebody has less. And or somebody who has more has less in another way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's important to practice gratitude just for that reason. Because when it's time to go back and really have to bring yourself back to neutral, you already have the practice in place. So it's like, oh, I know what to do. I do this all the time.
Yep. Okay. 2 Samuel 16-18. Now,
all right.
This is what happens when God said evil was going to be in your house. David flees Absalom, and then Absalom dies. So basically, Absalom conspires against David and takes over his castle. It's not his castle. It's his
kingdom.
Kingdom, but
his servants.
It's no
tent. I don't know.
No, it's his. Because God, he wanted to build God a temple and said, "No, I'm gonna build you
a house."
A house. Yeah.
Is that what it says?
Yeah. Yeah. He took over David's house. Basically, he took over the kingdom. He conspired and took over the kingdom of David. And David had to go back into the wilderness. Now, here's the thing. We got to be honest here. Absalom was mad that David did not take action on his son, take action on his brother who raped his sister. He got his brother killed, and then he said, I don't know what my father's doing. I'm going to take over. He's not meant to rule. He's lost his edge. And he did it slick where he started to judge the people from... He started judging the people commonly, right? And everybody knows who he is. And then he started getting the ears of everybody's servants. And then one of the servants came to David and was like, hey, Absalom's trying to take over. You need to get out of here. So David flees. He flees. And it's crazy because his son, if his father was there, I think he would have tried to kill him. If David was there and Absalom was there, I think Absalom would try to kill David.
Yeah.
But David had friends, and David fled to the wilderness. He talked to this servant who actually he gave land to Saul's son, Jonathan's son. He looked out for him. Oh, yeah.
No, I was just trying to see which one we were on, 16 through 18, because I had went back to 14, and I was like, I know we didn't read that part right there, but I was 16 just looking at 18. It.
And then after that, Absalom takes over. And wait a minute.
Absalom took over, but
did he take over his concubines too?
I felt like, well, no, he was instructed to, but he didn't. He was advised to. I don't think he did it though. I didn't see where he did that. But I think even though people were regarding Absalom as like the new king, David, even though he's hiding in the wilderness, he still had some folks on his side.
He did.
That were like, we're gonna stick with you. So Absalom, even though he was kind of like in the kingdom and he was like walking around town, I guess Jerusalem, which was Zion, right? I think David named Jerusalem Zion. Well, it says Jerusalem in my Bible, so I'm going to go with that. So he's walking around. Absalom is walking around, acting like he's the king, but he hadn't taken David out yet. And some of the people were still with David. Some of the people were still like, we're not going to call Absalom king, which was intelligent on their part, because that's not, Absalom actually did not end up taking over. He ended up getting killed, which was interesting the way that whole thing happened. So what James was just saying is that somebody was advising Absalom, and I couldn't remember. That's why I kind of didn't want to. I don't want to confuse anybody, because I didn't really understand this part either. I have to do a little more research on this part, because one of David's advisors went to go and advise Absalom, like almost like he was switching sides. But there was some talk of someone, and I don't know if it was the same person, kind of being a spy for David, to say, oh, go and act as if you are working with him, but really report back to me. And I couldn't remember which one it was. And so I kind of got the two people, like it was Ahithophel, and it was another person, and I was so confused, like Hushai. And I was like, who is who? Because Hushai ended up taking himself out. Wait, was it him? See, don't listen to me, y'all got to read this for yourselves, because see, what happens is I get confused. Now, what happened with Hushai, the ark that came. Okay, so now I'm in 2 Samuel 16. Are you okay? I'm in second.
I'm trying to
we
pronounce
can hear
his
that.
name.
We can hear that, but that's okay. 2 Samuel 16. Yeah. So Hushai, the archetype, David's friend.
Ahithophel.
Right. Okay. So I'm talking about Hushai. Came to David. This is the archetype, David's friend. Mm-hmm. He came to Absalom and said, "Long live the king." Then he kind of like, back and was like, oh, I was talking about you, basically. You know what I'm saying? Whoever the people have chosen to be their king, that's what I'm talking about. So I guess I'm talking about you. But I really think he was like on the side of David. Anyway.
He was. Hushai was on the side of David because he saved David.
So Ahithophel was right there, and Absalom asked him, like, what do you think I should do? Give me your advice. Mm-hmm. And this is in 2 Samuel 21 I am in right now. 2 Samuel 21. Ahithophel said to Absalom, go into your father's concubines, whom he has left behind, to take care of the house. Then all 16, of Israel... 2 Samuel... Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
2 Samuel 16:21. My bad.
Yeah. I'm right here.
Ahithophel said to Absalom, go into your father's concubines, whom he's left behind, to take care of the house. Then all of Israel will hear that you have made yourself odious to your father. Then the hands of all who are with you will be strengthened by your boldness and audacity. So he's basically like, just go and do it and show everybody that you the man now, right? And then Hushai basically... David, so Hushai was David's friend. Yeah, basically was asked by Absalom, what do you think? And he said something else. He told him to do something else. So what happened then was...
because Ahithophel wanted to get 12,000 men and attack David at night when he's weary. And Hushai came up with a different plan.
I thought Hushai said that.
17, the first 17.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And then Absalom listened to Ahithophel. Mm-hmm. Which, that could have been a good plan in hindsight. It could have been. But Hushai was like, no. Mm-hmm.
So, basically, after that, when his advice wasn't taken, I'm looking for the actual verse. Hushai, Zadok, that's not the right one.
Which one?
I'm talking about what happened to Ahithophel.
23.
16:23?
17:23.
The advice of Ahithophel, which he gave in those days, was as if a man had consulted the word of God. That is how Ahithophel's counsel was regarded by both David and Absalom. So that's not what I was looking for, though.
Yeah, because mine says when Ahithophel, Saul's counsel was not followed, he saddled his donkey, went off home to his own city. He set his house in order and hanged himself.
That's 16:11, right?
I got that's 17:23.
Us. Okay. Oh, my bad. That is right.
I was like, wait a minute.
I lighted it in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Sorry. So that's what happened to Ahithophel.
Yeah.
See, I done took people all on a tangent. This is why it's so important to read your Bible.
Yeah.
If you was listening to me, you'd have been all confused. Okay, so now what's the question?
Oh yeah. How was the loss of his child compounded in David's case? Who?
Well, there's a number of ways because he lost 2 children, right?
I was
So
about
number
to say
one.
that.
Oh, go ahead. You listen.
I was about to say maybe 3.
You think Tamar got 2?
Well, so maybe 4. Well, okay, let's break this down.
So, okay, go ahead.
Let me break it down.
Because I'm like, I didn't read.
All right, so his first son died in his arms. Bathsheba's first son.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, now you're going all the way back.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the first child he lost.
Yeah.
Right, and it kind of broke him because this took him to the place where he's at now. It broke him so much, and it broke up his relationship with God is different. That's why when Tamar got raped by his other son, Amnon, right? Amnon. He was angry, but he was like, "Don't do anything." I think I've lost someone. Then Absalom kills Amnon.
Okay, we'll just go with that.
And then Tamar is now a desolate woman, which means I think back then, because she's not married and got raped, I don't know if she's going to be able to marry a husband.
Oh, wow.
Then
that's unfortunate.
Absalom dies.
Right.
So the string of events, I think that it goes back to exactly what you said. Whereas David was kind of blinded about what's going on in his life because because he committed that sin of adultery with Bathsheba and had her husband killed. He kind of has lost sight of who he was. And
I'm sure he feels lost, but the question of how his child
is compounded,
the loss of his child is compounded, I would think that he feels somewhat responsible for the chain of events, right? Like he didn't kill them, but because he didn't take any, like if he had taken corrective action with Amnon, right, he could have kept him from being killed because at least he sent him away or he did this or
compounded
in some way, right?
So
you didn't do that. So now somebody killed that son.
Yep.
So he's already, I'm sure that was upsetting to him. Then you go forward and Absalom is so upset that he's taking matters into his own hands. And then some of the servants of David basically killed Absalom in pursuit of making things right.
Yep.
But now he's the lost kids. Right? More than one, more than 2.
3 kids, and then his daughter.
I don't know if that was his daughter, if that was his half.
It's his sister. It could be his half sister.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, regardless, all of these things, some of these things could have perhaps been avoided. If he had at least taken action once Tamar was raped by his son. If he had taken some sort of like disciplinary or corrective order, if he would have set something in place, then perhaps he wouldn't have lost them from the earth. Like maybe he wouldn't have lost, their lives would have been lost. Maybe we don't know because that's not what happened.
Tamar was Absalom's full sister and half sister.
She was Amnon's half sister,
but Absalom's full sister. David was the father.
Okay, so David was the father. That's tough.
It's tough. Like,
well,
he lost so much, and I think it goes back to how it's compounded is because of what happened with Bathsheba. He lost his first child. He kind of lost a little bit of himself and righteousness because of what happened with Bathsheba and he lost his first child. He kind of was like, I don't know how you described it, but you were like, because what happened with Bathsheba, his judgment was
tainted.
That's the compound.
Biased,
because it's tainted. Now you're making decisions that aren't righteous and don't align with Lord.
Right.
And then it just compounds. And now it's like, I'm getting now three kids of mine are done. I had a newborn that passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I had a son, a half son. Not half son, a full son.
Yeah.
Raped my daughter, his half sister. Now his brother has killed him, and my daughter is desolate. So like that's tough. And then he got kicked out of his kingdom. That's a lot. That's a lot compounded from one action.
Yeah, it was, and I think he's probably saddened by the idea that he maybe couldn't have done anything about it. Really well, no, sad. I think he could have. He could have done something about it, and I think, like you said, his judgment was so off because he had then been a sinner, and he's making adjustments to what he knows to be righteous. You remember young David was like
he would have did this.
He was so about what was right.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
He wouldn't have did this. So I would have been scared if young David found out if his son did that. I don't know what young David would have did. When David was first like kingdom, if he would have never, but see, here's the thing, because he slept with Bathsheba, he gets Solomon. It sucks, but it's a consequence, you know?
All right, well, let's move on. It gets messy, guys. Like this Bible story is it's messy.
I feel like it's gonna get I don't know. I feel like it's gonna get better and better.
26.
We have various Psalms, and okay.
Let me go to 26. I'll cover the first.
This says these Psalms reveal patience in what ways? Are we gonna go over all of them?
I'm just gonna pick one. So I'll look at 26.
I'll pick 40. One and you pick one.
Okay, so what is the question? Let's ask the question so that it's
all right. So obvious. The Psalms 26, 40, 58, 61, 62, and 64. These Psalms reveal patience. In what ways?
I'm looking at 26 and 40. So I can tell you right now, because I've highlighted this up. Now, 26 is a protestation of integrity and prayer for protection. And it starts out, Psalm 26, vindicate me, O Lord, for I've walked in my integrity. Right there, you're saying, like, if you're walking in integrity, you have patience. I relied on and trusted confidently in the Lord without wavering, and I shall not slip. That requires patience, right? And later on, it goes to say, I hate the company of evildoers, redeem me and be merciful. It's basically about how I've had integrity and I'm calling on your word, God, because I know I've been doing the right thing. And, that's what it is. In order to have integrity, you have to have patience. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go ahead and say that because there's times where you don't want to have integrity. You want to do what's easy. But if you had integrity and you walked in the way of God, then that in turn says patience. Now I'm on 40. Mm-hmm. Now I'm on 40. Okay, so it kind of speaks for itself, this one. This is God sustains his servant. That's the name of Psalm 40 is in my amplified version, my Joyce Meyer amplified version. The first verse says, I waited patiently and expectantly for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard my cry. Right? So that, listen, then it goes on to say in Psalm 40, verse 3, He put a new song in my mouth and a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear with great reverence, and I will trust confidently in the Lord. In order to trust confidently in the Lord, you have to be patient because He's not going to give you what you are requesting right away most times. And really, I would say all the time, but maybe sometimes it does. Maybe sometimes He does give it to you right away because I've experienced that too. Sometimes God moves real quick, but for the most part, you have to wait. You have to pray and wait and put in your work and do your thing and show and be tested and be consistent. In order to be consistent, you have to do it over a long period of time, right? And that's patience. So in order to see things happen, you gotta do it and wait and do it and wait. You know what I'm saying?
It kind of like goes to what I was talking about when we were on the we were outside on the roof about to go somewhere, and I was like, yo, consistency. They kind of, this is so crazy. No, it's not. Maybe God has did this on purpose, but discipline and consistency and patience like all tie into each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They all tie in, because if you have discipline, you have to have patience and consistency. If you have consistency, you have to have patience and discipline.
Yeah.
In order to be consistent, you have to have discipline.
Yeah.
And patience. They all kind of like
coincide with each other, and they're not all the same thing.
They're not
they
all the same.
Are sisters. They require the presence of the other.
It's kind of like, we all eat McDonald's. It's kind of like you gotta get the burger with the fries and the drink. We all go together.
My gosh!
Hey, listen. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that. That's what I think it is. It's kind of like an outfit. You need your socks, your pants, your shirt. You go, all right. You go. Let's go. Shoes, pants, shirt. You have to, right? You can't walk in a place bare feet. And you could, but you might get sent home, right? You can't walk in a place with no shirt on. Maybe the gym, but you gotta have pants. All three go together.
Oh my gosh, this guy.
All right, so 58 is very interesting. It's kind of. This is where he's talking about wicked people, the whole verse. And it just says God who judged the earth. I don't. Yeah, it just basically talks about tyrants. It talks about the charge against tyrants, the curse against the tyrants, the celebration.
Maybe all of them don't apply. Maybe they're just like, which ones apply? I definitely think
58 is straight. It just talks about what God's going to do to tyrants.
Well, you kind of have to be patient to see that. And even in 61, it again, hear my cry, oh God. A lot of these psalms are prayers and songs of praise, but it's like you have to be able to like cry out to God and wait to hear what He says to you and wait for Him to do something for you. It doesn't necessarily happen like right away.
Here's 61. Here's a good one. 61, 5 and 6. For you, O God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those who fear your name. Prolong the life of the king. May his years endure to all generations. That's patience.
Yeah.
Like, life is very interesting. And most times in life, you got to have patience, because you ever rush at something and then you mess it up?
Yes, a lot.
Like, oh man, if I was just careful.
Yeah. If I would have just took my time. The
this
technique
doesn't
of
fall. I don't hit that on my car. The sink is messed up because I did this. I put the wrong detergent on the clothes. Like it's because you're like, I just need to hurry up.
You're trying to get so much done, and it's like you end up having to go back and redo something or correct yourself.
Yep.
Like, and have to spend more time because you weren't patient.
Yep.
Yeah. That happens to me more than I like to admit. I think anytime you're calling on God, you're having to wait. And then also sometimes it looks like other people who aren't doing right are winning. And really that shouldn't matter to us, because we should just be focused on our own path. Not to say let somebody run over you and all that stuff, but it's like people are going to do what they're going to do. You don't have too much control over that. But if you're just patiently, seeking your own path and learning from your own life and seeking God, like that's enough to focus on right there. Yep. So I think that's another way that it kind of mentions. It's like when other people are doing things like here it says the enemy delights in lies, right? They with the words of their mouth, but inwardly they curse. Like I get it, and David is good about one of the things we've noticed. David is good about bringing everything to God, right? Like he will come in and bring his observations. He'll come and talk about his ailments and his feelings and his, desires and his anxieties and everything that he is experiencing. And he just brings it all. He puts it all out there to God.
When he's praising God, when he's happy and life is going good, he's praying. When he's fearful of death, he's praying. Yeah. When he's messed up, he's praying. When he's going to war, he's praying. He's praying, like you said, everything that is going on in his life, he looks to the Lord. That's one thing that I admire about him, that I need to adopt more in my life.
For sure.
Like I gotta pray every day. I gotta talk to God every day, multiple times a day.
And not just the stuff that
just be like,
I think,
my
you know what I'm saying?
Or
I mean, not just the stuff that I feel like, this is holy, right? I it's like I need to bring everything.
My feelings, my desires, my thoughts,
the things that I don't want to correct. Ooh, that's a harsh one for you guys. That's something I don't like to admit. The things that I'm like, oh God, you know how sometimes what is it? They're like blessed and highly favored. It's like sometimes I'll pray in a specific way because it's like I don't want you to help me with this because that's gonna hurt. That's gonna make me uncomfortable. So I just don't even want to bring it to you because I'll figure that part out, right? It's like, come on, man, you can't do that.
Yeah,
you can't do that, Faith. And like that's what I'm working through. It's just like, okay, it's all parts of me. And it was a verse that I came across in my memory verses today. Is 1 James 22, I think. It might be 27. I think it's 22 though. But it's basically like you have to use the word. You can't just hear it and not use it. You have to actually do what it says. And I literally am learning, and we're learning that, but you can't do what it says if you don't know what it says, right? So that's the part that we're kind of figuring out as we're going along. But as I learn it, I also have to be cognizant of like, now that I know this to be true, I have to go ahead and make it happen. Like observe it and understand what is taking place in my life, and then apply it in a way where it's just like, okay, now I feel like I'm being obedient to God. And if I'm unclear about it, I have to just be good about praying about it. Did you find it?
No, what was it, James?
I think it was James 1:22.
Okay. Yeah. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. If anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man that looks intently at his natural face in the mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away, and at once forgets that he was like. But the one who looks in the mirror into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and preserves, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he shall be blessed in his doing. Yeah. You got to do it.
So that brings us into the end of this, but I
Yep.
wanted you to talk a little bit about Second Timothy 3:16. As you know, and I'll turn to it in mine is
You want to end with that?
well, yeah, because one of the things, so when we picked our, as we've been on this Bible journey, we have set up all our platforms and stuff like that. Sometimes you have to pick a number. With YouTube, we had IICIG on there, IICIIG, and we had IICIG 3:16. And a lot of people are familiar with the verse John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. I believe that's what it
Yep.
says. And that is definitely um, something that I'm definitely very grateful for. But if we're talking about what our mission is and like what we're doing with is it crazy or is it God? It really speaks more to Timothy, Second Timothy,
Yeah. Okay.
Second Timothy 3:16.
Oh, okay.
And so James and I were kind of talking about it the other day. Like really, Second Timothy 3:16 sums up what we're about here.
Yeah.
So if you want to read it, or you want me to read
Yeah,
it? Okay.
I got it right here. 2 Timothy 3:16. All scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
That the man, and 17, that the man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work.
Yeah. So basically, that's what the Bible is. God's
Yeah.
word. It's God breathed. It's God inspired, and it's for
Mm-hmm.
correction. It's
Teaching.
for teaching. It's for us to learn how to live our lives the righteous way. And so that's kind of like why we're so excited. One of the reasons.
Yeah.
Because we want to learn everything and we want to understand it and apply it.
And we want to and it's training in righteousness.
Mm-hmm. It's training in righteousness. But you got to hear it. You got to do it, right? So that's what I'm learning how to do because I'm not perfect and I'm nowhere near it. And,
me neither.
We're trying to learn more about the word and apply it real time.
Yeah.
And we welcome you guys to join us and read with us because I'll tell you that it's not always easy to find, time to be consistent, but it definitely pays off. It's worth it. Like there's so many times where I'm going through something and I know from something that I've already read where to go back and reference, or there's so many times that I'm witnessing something or I'm experiencing something and I have a scripture to go back to, and it can really be the difference between like mental anguish or like really, I'm not going to say like, I don't want to say it's the wrong way, but I think reading the Bible is definitely helping me with my mental health.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that that's the case for everybody. And like, if you're on medication, that you should just read the Bible instead. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that it's definitely helpful when you have these things that you could reference and you know that it's true. You know what I'm saying? Because you've seen it in your own life.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I was thinking about. Like when people are confused about whether the Bible is true, like you've seen this stuff happen in your time. Like these things that happened thousands of years ago, but you also have seen it, and there's no way that stuff could have been, you know what I mean? Like there's no way that you would know. Right? You're gonna read this and you're gonna be like, wow, I've seen that play out like last week. The Bible was written way before last week, but somehow it's still relevant to what's happening and what's getting ready to happen in the future. So I would just encourage people to go and have your own journey of reading the Bible. All right, sorry. I feel like I went all the way off on a tangent, but I'm not sorry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sorry because it's from the heart. I was gonna ask you if you have any shout outs this week.
Yeah, always the same. Next week will be different though. I'll do a different shout out.
Okay.
So I want to shout out Fourth Quarter. It's a place where we film. We're live every Wednesday, probably like 7:15, 7:30, and we just talked about all the current events going on in sports, all of our opinions. Right now, it's a lot of Lamar Jackson talk, a lot of Aaron Rodgers talk. But yeah, we just come there and it's just a good time from a fan's perspective. And that's it. I'm gonna shout out, IICIIG is as crazy as a God, of course. But that's it. But this week, another project should be starting.
Yes, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and shout out Mr. Meter Joe. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna shout out myself on Yes I'm a Unicorn because I'm actually starting to post more content. I filmed a bunch of content this weekend, and I'm gonna spend this week editing and putting it out. I'm gonna have some that's coming to you today. And I'm really excited to talk about what I consider to be, I think it's very important that we all understand how our minds work and how we think about time and how we need to plan. And that's just something that I'm very passionate about. And you'll see more of that over on Yes I'm Unicorn. Shout out to Mr. Meter Joe, the other half of the D City Life Sisters. Used to be called Those Two Sisters. You can still call us Those Two Sisters, but we're going to be migrating onto our D City Life YouTube platform. Again, disclaimer, we are PG-13 over there. And this is another thing that I'm talking about. Like, I'm not a perfect Christian. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one is. But like, I just choose not to hide, myself. Like, this is who I am right now. I curse sometimes, I drink sometimes, I do a lot of things. I mean, I don't hurt nobody, but I have a good time, and I have some things that can be worked through, but God is still working on me. But I'm not ashamed. I am who I am, and I have a lot of fun, and I love God. Yeah. Which brings me to my last shout out for this week, which is, oh man, is it my last one? Okay, yeah, I'll make this my last one. I have to shout out Sister Donnie Wiggins. I call her Sister Donnie Wiggins. We've talked about the Social Proof podcast here on our show before, but David Shan's half of Social Proof, half of their duo there, has encouraged Donnie to go off and build her own podcast separate from the Social Proof podcast. And they're still on the Social Proof podcast, and I definitely recommend you check them out. But if you haven't checked out Full Transparency with Donnie Wiggins, I implore. She will. Let me tell you something. I watched something of hers the other day. It got me all the way together. And I just really appreciate voices like hers that are out there. So got to give a shout out to Donnie Wiggins. I'm calling you Sister Donnie. I don't know you like that, but you're my friend in my head. And I appreciate what you're doing out here in these streets. And I'm just grateful to be in a time where we can experience people like this. Because years ago, even like 10 or 20 years ago, if you didn't know somebody, like you didn't have any access to them. And like even nowadays, I'll meet somebody and recognize them from like, oh, I know you from Instagram. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a friend of a friend. And it's like, oh yeah, I know you. I've seen pictures of you for years. And I just never met you in person. So that's really cool that we're able to like have these positive influences of people that we don't necessarily know in real life, but they're doing something great and we can be a part of it. So if you haven't checked out Full Transparency over on the Social Proof Network or channel, then this is my shout out to them. Next week, we're going to be reading 2 Samuel. Once again, we'll be reading 19 through 21. And then we'll be reading Psalms 5, 38, 41, 42, 2 Samuel 22 through 23, Psalms 57, and we're going to end off here, right? Did I just read 3 of them? So with Psalms 95 and 97 through 99. And then, you know what? We might just I don't know. No, maybe not. I was just like, we might as well just finish off. But I think that starts First Chronicles. So that's where we're going to end. And yeah, I don't have any other shout outs. I'm excited you joined us again for another podcast episode. And we're going to keep this thing going, guys. We're almost halfway through, and we're going to keep talking about the Bible. We're going to keep trying to encourage people. As we always like to say, don't take our word for it. Go to the source.
Read your
Read your
Bible.
Bible. All right, guys. With that, signing off. We'll see you next week.